So you know what really drives me nuts is I do these videos teaching people how to drive exotic cars, how to drive luxury cars, how to do whatever it takes to learn the ins and outs of the industry of the exotic car world. And a lot of people have their own opinions about the exotic car world. So this is the thing about, you know, the car market is so many people have their opinions about what cars should be. Like they have their opinions about what cars are good, they have their opinions about how things work. But one of my favorite things that people have an opinion on, which really they shouldn't have a fucking opinion on, is the fact that they always have something to say about how often exotic cars break down, or they always have something to say about how expensive the insurance is. But you know what's funny? 99.9% of those people making those comments have never owned an exotic. Like, I find that mind-boggling that someone who's never done something has such a strong opinion and somehow is an expert in this entire art which they've never practiced. Like, it boggles my mind. Like, it almost makes me feel like you could ask like a martial artist to go to a competition and watch people fight, and he'll tell you that guy's good, etc. And then you bring a 15-year-old keyboard warrior imbecile to sit there and watch a fight, and he's like, oh yeah, like, yeah, that style, that's gonna get him killed. It's like, what do you know? Like, do you fight? No. Have you ever fought? No. Do you feel the adrenaline of going in the ring with somebody? Of course not. So being a keyboard warrior, so for those of you guys watching this that are on YouTube and that are on Instagram, and that are like, oh man, he posts pictures of cars, but it's so expensive. He's saying it's affordable, but we can't afford because the insurance and because of all of these repairs. What repairs? What car have you owned that's needed repairs? And then there's the old guys. I love the old guys. Oh, you don't want a Ferrari? Because 30 years ago I had a Ferrari. It always broke down. Well, bro, you're right. But guess what? It's not 30 years ago. We're in America. It's now. It's 2018. It's not 1995. So nobody gives a shit about your experience in 1995. It's not accurate to what's happening today. And then there's the other peasants. The ones that are like, listen, these cars are nothing more but Volkswagens. Like, why would you want to invest money in a Volkswagen? Because your sorry ass can't afford to even buy a Volkswagen. So why are you worried about a guy buying a Bentley and saying, hey, this is a Volkswagen anyways? No, it's not. It's a Bentley, jackass. And if you actually understood how the world works and you understood how car manufacturers buy each other, you would actually realize that while Volkswagen may own a brand, it doesn't actually use Volkswagen Jetta parts to build a Bentley. And while even if it did, 5% of your engine would be built by Volkswagen. So what? Do you go under your motor and look at it every morning, look at the Volkswagen sign and feel bad that you're driving a Bentley? Of course not. But if you can't afford it, you justify exactly why you shouldn't own one, because it's a Volkswagen, because you're giving yourself every excuse to remain poor and miserable your whole life. And so this is the mentality that clashes real hard when it comes to exotic cars, right? It's this mentality that people don't seem to understand at all, like how the exotic car world works. First off, all exotics in today's age are mainly cross-pollinated, meaning we're not talking about hypercars. Again, before some troll out there goes, well, the P1 isn't a hacked up part, or whatever, man. Listen, most exotic cars, like let's take a look at Huracans, R8s, 458s, all of these cars, okay? All of these cars ultimately borrow components from other cars. So as a result of it, components are more reliable, they've been tested longer, and of course they're cheaper to duplicate and less time in between. So every argument that your car is going to be at the shop every day for the next 5 years, it's a terrible car, goes straight out the window for any car that was built pretty much after 2004. Just so you know that. Doesn't mean that all cars are perfect for exotics, of course not. But it means that the majority of cars in today's age, and the longer and further we get, the better this gets, because of cross-pollination between manufacturers, and the fact that Volkswagen, as an example, owns a dozen brands, so it's easier for it to take a shock and use it in both the R8 and the Huracan, because it makes sense, and it reduces cost, and it improves reliability. So why not, right? So that's there. Secondly, insurance isn't expensive. Just because you're an idiot with 17 freaking driving tickets for going 3 times the speed limit doesn't mean that everybody's insurance is expensive because you're an idiot. Of course not. If you're an idiot and you drive like shit, then yes, no matter that you drive a Honda Civic or a Ferrari, yes, your insurance is going to be very expensive, and it's very likely that you're not even going to qualify for exotic car insurance, so you can stay miserable and justify why you should drive a Civic. Now, at the end of the day, here's the angle, guys. If you want to drive an exotic, I pay roughly $600-700 every 6 months for the majority of my exotics. What do they include? Bentley GT3R, Aston Martin Vanquish, Ferrari F12, G63 like we're sitting in today, or Lamborghini Performante Spider. Anywhere at the most, I pay $1,100 every 6 months. I have a perfect driving record. I've gotten a speeding ticket before, but I have no reckless, I have no DUIs, I have none of these issues, and as a result of it, I'm able to get affordable and fair insurance by the most expensive company in the country, and I'm also in the most expensive state in the country to insure a car. So those things, and I still pay these rates. When I lived in Virginia, I was paying $600 for my Gallardo every 6 months. That's $100 a month to drive a Gallardo. So I don't care who you are. If you have a shitty driving record, keep your comments to yourself. Just because you can't afford insurance doesn't mean the next guy that's buying a Ferrari won't be able to afford insurance. I have plenty of members at Exotic Car Hacks that get their first Ferrari, their first Lamborghini, and guess what? They go to an insurance company, they have decent driving records, and they come back and they go, holy shit, it was so affordable. One of my own employees just bought his own Gallardo and ended up saying, look, hey, I went to Geico, they give me $100 a month. I had gone to State Farm, they give me $250 a month. He's like, both were so cheap, I just didn't understand. And that is the point, guys. It's not expensive. And this is the best part. Stop trying to learn how to actually buy exotic cars from people who don't buy them. Just because someone reviews an exotic car on YouTube does not mean they have bought exotic cars. Just because you go into a dealership and borrow one does not mean you have bought exotic cars. I've bought 100+ exotic cars, not borrowed, not rented, not leased, bought. Some financed and some were bought cash. As a result of it, I have a very good understanding of the buying process. And this is part of what people don't understand. They're like, well, I don't believe in that guy's opinion of the Huracan. Well, I don't give a shit you like my opinion. Listen, my reviews are based on my perspective as an owner. They are not based on any aspect, okay, of my preference over a V10 or a V8, nor do I give a shit. I help people buy exotic cars through Exotic Car Hacks. I do not care that you like the Huracan over the 458. I do not care that you're a keyboard warrior sitting at home, holding your dick in your hand, have a Maxima, and ultimately are wondering why I don't like your dream car, the Huracan. I don't care that you think I write about 6 cars that'll make you look rich, and I say to people that they're pretend people if they're buying 30K Maseratis and pretending to be rich, and that's altered your dream and your goals because that was the first car you had in sight to be a fake millionaire. I don't care, because at the end of the day, I'm already rich and I don't give a shit, and I say it as it is. And if you don't like hearing it, well, guess what? There comes reality. I don't care that you don't like it. And that is the beauty of what I do. I teach people who want to learn to get in exotics, what it takes to buy them, how to negotiate them, how to buy them right so they can drive them a certain amount of miles, how to predict the market, and how to get out of it without assuming a loss. And guess what? Some of them do lose money. And they lose money because they don't follow instructions. They fall in love with the cars instead of the money. And more importantly than that, they don't fall in love with the process and they get emotional and buy the car at the wrong price. And as a result of that, they lose. And so what I'm trying to tell you, what I'm trying to get to, is that every single one of you has an opportunity to be in an exotic car in 30 days, 6 months, a year. How you perceive information on buying one, how you listen to real information about buying one, is what determines if you're going to be in one or not. Surrounding yourself with 3,000 plus of our exotic car members that are in our group trading exotic cars is going to teach you what they've done wrong, what they've done well, what they can teach you or not. It is not going to teach you to buy a shitty book from some dumb guy who doesn't have $1 to his name, who's sitting at home saying, oh, I've been in this business for a long time as a salesperson. Listen, if you're a salesperson in a dealership, you do not know what it's like to own an exotic because you're not putting up your own money. It's like saying you trade stocks for a firm. You're not trading your own money. And that makes a difference because you're not dealing with the ins and outs. It's easy to be a critic when you're a spectator. It's very difficult to be a critic when your ass is on the line, your money's on the line, and you're in the middle of it. So stop being a spectator, start educating yourself, and ultimately stop being a keyboard warrior that thinks that your words will matter or will justify why you're poor and stupid in 5 years, while your friends are staying silent, learning, and 5 years later you wonder why they're not your friends, because they elevated themselves, they got their exotics, they got their success, and moved on. So if you don't like what I have to say, I don't really care. That's the beauty of being rich. You don't have to give a shit about what people want. And more importantly, listen, why would I care about what a 15-year-old sitting at home holding his dick in his hand and not having $1 in his name has to say about my